Good morning. Let me just try and fix this camera here. Oh dear. I have no idea what's going on with the camera this morning. Let's hope it will stay. All right. Welcome to Legally Speaking with Attorney Antoinette Osborne. This program is for information purposes only. If you need legal advice, you can contact me, Antoinette Osborne, at 718-502-9137. That's 718-502-9137. The office focuses on divorce, immigration, bankruptcy, real estate, and estate matters. We also do eviction proceedings. There is a second office in Jamaica, West Indies that focuses on legal representation if you are looking to buy or sell property, or if you are looking to wrap up an estate. This morning, I wanted to encourage some of you who are looking to add your children to your deed. I am going to recommend that you seriously consider whether or not you want to add them to your deed. And the reason being for this is that, unfortunately, where I have seen parents who have removed themselves totally and they have put their child or children on the deed, and that same child puts them out, right? I have seen possibly the child goes ahead and gets a spouse where unfortunately the spouse and the parent does not get along and the parent gets displaced. So I'm going to encourage those of you who are looking to put your child on the deed, be very careful. If you are insistent, I'm going to, and you have to also consider, the responsibility of whether or not your child is in fact a responsible person. If they have certain liens or judgments against them, it will also go against your deed, as this gets recorded against your title history. So these are things that I am going to encourage you. Just, be careful when you are looking to add someone to your deed. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Nicola. Nicola, I can't find my phone. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Sandy, Melanie, June, Amarildo, and I think it's Lester. Sorry. Good morning. All right. So if you have a question, you can put it in the live. Don't forget to like the live. Don't forget also to share the live. Now, for those of you who are insistent in putting your children on the deed, I'm going to encourage you retain a life estate in the deed. So, and this also assists you for tax purposes when you become eligible for the enhanced star, especially if you are in the suburbs such as Westchester, Rockland, Nassau, Suffolk County, where the taxes are a bit high. This helps you, not only do you get the basic star when you have reached a certain age and you are of a certain income, it allows the enhanced star, as of course the government sees that when you do in fact get older, your income reduces because you're no longer of that working age. A lot of people are on retirement, social security, and that's if you had worked with an employer who had in fact contributed to a retirement plan. So for those of you who are insistent in putting your children on the deed, I'm gonna encourage you so that you can retain some form of control. You can put yourself in retaining a life estate. Some people later in life will actually remove themselves from the deed in light of possible liens when they go into, when they want to qualify for certain government assistance, and also with respect to nursing home liens. All right, so just tuning in, you are listening to Legally Speaking with attorney Antoinette Osborne. If you have a question this morning, you can actually put it in the live, or you can, in addition, you can text it if you do not want to identify yourself in the live as asking the question. You can also text your question to 718-502-9137. All right, so a text came in this morning and it says, "Good morning, Miss Antoinette. My daughter waiver was approved. What is the next step? Should I wait on the lawyer or call Visa Center?" You can contact your attorney. You can even contact the Visa Center. Once the waiver is approved, then National Visa Center often starts the resumption of the case. So this is something that you can, in fact, reach out to National Visa Center on your own. So Angela asks, "Good morning, Miss Osborne. I would like to know if some, what is this, lives on a land for 27 years and keep and care, but the owner paid the taxes. Do I have any right to own? Please." All right. So she wants some guidance on this morning. And are you, Angela, referring to property in Jamaica, West Indies, or are you referring to property here? I'll tell you, a lot of people are going to, with respect to property in Jamaica, what's going on, prices of land, it's so expensive, and people are in fact going out and they are seeking to capture your land. And once they are in actual physical possession, and when you live overseas, you cannot show that you are in any form of physical possession of your land. And what is happening now for those of you who are out of possession because you are in fact overseas, people are moving in and they are seeking to take your land via adverse possession. So I am going to encourage anyone who has property in Jamaica, if it is that you see that someone who you have not authorized on your property, some people are in fact building structures, you need to take corrective action to start evicting them, as they are accruing rights over your property. And once you are out of possession, the fact that paying taxes alone is not sufficient. When someone is on your land and they are in open and hostile possession, they are in fact building structures on your land. That's a way of exercising ownership. You have no lease with them. You have been out of possession for many years. And this is why, if you do have property back in Jamaica, I'm going to encourage you. If you cannot be in that property, rent it, do your leases to show that the tenant is in the role of a tenant, as a tenant cannot adversely possess your property. And you'd be surprised that in fact, your own relatives will seek to take your property. Some people like to put their relatives, give your relative a lease as well. Don't take things for granted. And I think as a community, this is where we actually fail and where we will lose our property because we become very lax and we are a very trusting people, as especially when it comes to our relatives. We do not anticipate that our own relative will seek to rob you. Yeah, but biblically, the Bible will tell you it's those that are close to you that will fail you. And for husband and wives who where one spouse is living overseas, sometimes you're stuck here for years. And you'd be surprised that your spouse too, there's a possibility them being in the property by themselves all these years, exercising all rights of ownership. You cannot travel, or you refuse to travel and basically exalt yourself, showing that you also are in open and hostile possession. This is how people take away your property from you. So Pauline is saying, good morning, Miss Osborne, tuning in from Westchester. Please keep yourself safe and warm. I will tell you, it is extremely cold outside. And Pauline is right, keep yourself warm. It is freezing out there for anyone who is homeless. This is not the time to be homeless in these frigid temperatures. I went outside yesterday and I just made sure I went into the store and I made sure to go specifically for what I wanted, and I jumped back in my vehicle and that's it. I was out of there. You know, usually you'd go and you'd browse. No, there's no browsing in this frigid temperature. Amarilla says it feels like 7 degrees in Brooklyn. It's cold. It is cold. Let us not even try and dance around it. It's cold, you know. So this is not a time where you want to be in any cascas with your spouse, because nobody wants to get put out. For those of you with your limited orders of protection, for the person who the order of protection is against, this is not the time for you to act up and be removed because you have violated the order of protection. A limited order of protection is where you can exist basically in the same space and you're not supposed to, harass or annoy anybody who has the order of protection in their favor. So I'm going to encourage you, you're catching somewhere, this is not the day to engage in an unnecessary argument. Yeah. Whether you're visiting from a foreign country or, God forbid, you fell down in life and you're staying with someone, this is not the time to enter into an argument so that you can get put out. Yeah. Let's get real. It is extremely cold outside, and just keep calm, keep cool. Don't bother act up in that place so you can get put out. This, I'm sure the shelters now are actually filled to capacity. This is not the day, and I think it's going to be as freezing tomorrow for anyone to get put out. I am so going to encourage you, just stay calm in the places. All right, so today I wanted to discuss your deeds, how you hold your real property. And Jamaica is similar to New York in such that we have two title holdings that are similar, which are the tenants in common type of ownership. And when you are closing on a property, I am going to want you to revise and take a look at the deed and ensure that your legal ownership is displayed in the manner that you wish to see it. And I will encourage, for those of you who want to be able to leave your property via a will, you can make sure that your ownership is as tenants in common. You'll have children who are expecting to inherit, because when it is that you hold as a tenant in common with someone, you in fact have the right that you can will your property to whomever you want. You can actually sell your interest to whomever you want. When you hold as joint tenants, there is a right of survivorship that comes along with joint tenants with right of survivorship. This is an automatic operation of law where if one person dies, then by operation of law, their portion goes to the person who remains on the deed, right? And what you'll find is when you have people who are manipulative, like you may have children who are very manipulative with regards to their parents as their parents get older. So, what they will do is some of them will see the will that their parent have made, and they may decide that they don't want less of a share. So, what they do instead of just letting things slow by your parents' will get probated and you get their due share under the will, they go ahead, they go and they influence their parent to change the type of ownership. And this is why, as your parents become older, when they have substantial property, you have to watch what is going on. And you know, your siblings who are in fact manipulative, what they will in fact do is encourage their parents to change their deed, put them on the deed, and they want to change the nature of the ownership to joint tenants with the right of survivorship. And what that in fact does is, for the children who are banking to inherit on the deed, because the title was changed prior to death to joint tenants with a right of survivorship, those children who are there waiting in the will can no longer inherit. And that sibling who went ahead, encouraged their parent to, in fact, change the deed, what happens is they now, as the sole survivor, untitled, inherits everything, and the will is of no effect. What you have to understand is when you take your deeds, and if you see joint tenants with the right of survivorship, then it is the person last to die whose will control. So, what you will have some manipulative children, what they will do is they will go, because when they see that their parents are getting frail, they go by the house and they're searching and taking a look at titles. They are taking a look at wills, because this is a way to get closer to the parent when they are in their most fragile state, to take advantage. And I mean, you will definitely know your siblings who are like this. And I would encourage anyone who has made a will, one of the presumption is if you have a will and it was last in your possession, and at the time of your death, they cannot find the will, the presumption is that you destroyed it, right? And as a result of which, the rules of intestacy prevail. And dependent on who are your heirs, they are able to benefit. So I'm going to encourage anyone who has a will, leave it with your executor once, of course, it that person is trustworthy. Some people like to actually file their will in surrogate court. This is not something I would recommend, especially when you change your mind. And now the court system is very much aware there was a second will. So you're now serving people with notices who could have inherited under the first will, I would not encourage you to do that. What I think is do not leave that will. You can leave it with your executor, because if you are in fact nominating someone as your executor, what it is in fact doing is, that's like a level of trust that you are in fact designating to that person, that you believe this person is trustworthy, and as a result of which you are in fact giving that person the will, so that if you should die, it wasn't lost in your possession. So that presumption that you have revoked your will does not stand. New York goes a little bit further in terms of ownership for real property for husband and wives. If you are in fact married, there is an automatic right of survivorship. And I have had, and I will tell you about the entitlement of your children. It amazes me how your children are so entitled. And upon your demise, your death, if real property in New York is held as husband and wife, then the spouse automatically gets it. But what I have found with your very entitled children is that they believe they should be getting an interest upon the death of one of their parents, regardless that at the time of acquisition or later on in life, the parents somewhat at some point decided that they're going to hold the property as, and the husband and wife ownership is often designated by the word et ox, or you will see his wife. You may see as tenants by the entirety, or you may see that the property is held as husband and wife. So if it is that you have created a will and you hold as husband and wife, and one of the difficulty is for people who have outside children. Here comes the difficulty now, right? Because sometimes you may want your outside child to benefit. But if it is that you are holding as husband and wife, it's not going to happen for you. Or you may even want your children to benefit. If you are not the last to survive and you hold your property as a tenant by the entirety, which is often denoted by, you'll see the names on the deed, and then there's a comma, you'll see his wife, or you'll see as husband and wife. If that's not there, yeah, then it is presumed that you're holding as tenants by the entirety. However, the law is such that oftentimes they're going to divide up the property as tenants in common. If you do in fact hold as tenants by the entirety and you wish to sever this, you have to change your deed. Yeah. And this is where you have to be careful. I personally don't like, people going ahead, and if it is, and I'll tell you this, if it is that someone is helping you out to buy property, and you have to be very careful with this, for anyone who is placing someone on their deed for convenience purposes, make sure you have a contract with them, because what is happening is, so often someone has assisted you because you are not able to qualify for the mortgage by yourself at the time you acquired the property. So you probably got a friend or a family member to assist you in purchasing the property. What happens later on is that same friend and family member who knows that they did not put $1 in that property. Let's get real. At that time, you just could not qualify for the mortgage. You went to one of your friends or your family member asking for assistance. And this is where, when you can't stand on your own, how you will get often taken advantage of. So you're not able to qualify for the mortgage, and later on, what your friend does is, you want me to come off this deed, you have to run me some money. Some of them will even want 50% of your house. And this is where you have to be so careful where you put people on your deed, because you could not qualify for the mortgage. And here it is now, you want to be in a partition action, what takes 2 to 4 years sometime, to prove that in fact this was all for convenience purposes and they don't have an ownership interest. It can get very serious for you. Yeah. And some people some cases have held that just by the fact that the person went ahead and allowed you to qualify for the mortgage, that they should get an ownership interest. So you have to be very careful how you go ahead and you, in fact, get assistance to get someone to be on the deed. And a lot of people are not coming off the deed unless they are removed from the mortgage, and I don't blame them. It allows them to exercise some level of control. So Amarilla is asking, if property was purchased before marriage, is the other half still entitled? And I'll tell you, separate property, as long as it remains separate in a divorce, because you've had it before marriage, right? So it's deemed separate property. As long as it remains separate, then you're able to walk away with it. But the law is such that it's such a little devil at times, in terms of, if it is that you're using your marital funds, what's that? Your wages that you earned during the marriage to pay down on the mortgage. The courts are saying then that wages that you're used, that's marital funds, and basically a portion of that money, right, belong to your spouse, because it's earnings that you acquired during the marriage. So when you use that monies to pay down on the principal, right, your spouse should get a credit. So this is where, if you've had property before the marriage, I would encourage you, rent it out and go look a place, go look at a new place to live with your spouse, right? Because once you start using marital funds, now you're getting into murky waters, right? And it is now changing the whole title, the possibility that your spouse can get an interest. Another thing is, people will allow for their property to change when they get married by giving their spouse an interest in property that they had before the marriage, where they're allowing their spouse to make mortgage payments. I would not recommend that. Yeah. Or you are allowing your spouse to make improvements and renovations using their funds to your house. So now you're actually giving an interest. And this is where valuations will come in to see how it is that active engagement in renovating your property, how has that enhanced the value? Has it in fact even enhanced the value, right? So this is where property you had prior to your marriage, which you could have just walked away with, now the water has become murky as to whether or not this is in fact your separate property. Some people I think it's a big mistake. If I had a property prior to marriage, there is no way, right? I'm thinking of adding a spouse to the deed. I would prefer for us to go ahead and accumulate our own. This is real property you had prior to your marriage, your own blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah. Now you have some people where some people are lucky and they got some fantastic people in their lives as their spouse. And that person truly understands the concept of for better or worse. And one of the things that is so traumatic is where if you went ahead and married someone and the worst comes early in your marriage, because when it is that you go ahead and you marry, you're really trying to take the betterment of it, and that's what you're really focusing on. No one in fact focuses on worse, but worse can occur. Yeah. And I have seen where some people are so lucky in getting some wonderful spouses in that during the marriage they fell ill, and not a lot of you will encounter this. And I think people see signs prior to their marriage, but you ignore it. And what in fact happens is after you get married, you think it's gonna get better. It's not going to get better. And you have to be so careful who you take as a partner. Yeah. I I find that we're in a world right now where people are in fact so focused on the material versus the human element. You have to be so careful who you bring around in your surroundings, because some people are just here to take, yeah, and they're not here to build with you, right? And some people see what you have prior to the marriage, and it is their intent that they're coming to see what they can get from you. So Amarilda says, hell no, no adding to deed. Anything I suck salt and work long hours to purchase. I'm sorry. And Amarilda, I agree with you, you know, unless it is, I think if as a spouse, if you want to build and get something, then let's go and buy something together that's our own. Yeah. Let's try and build together. I see no difficulty in that. I don't see it being hard where you should be of the mindset, that's just me, right? That you're looking to get your own, right? So, I mean, it is what it is. I think a text message came in. So let's kind of take a look at it. So someone says, good morning. I met my husband with his house. I am not on the deed and he does not have a will. What will happen to the house if he dies? He has adult children. So here's the situation. If it is that your spouse has property, and it also depends on who is on the deed. If he alone is on the deed and he does not have a will, by law, upon death, then the spouse will get 50%, and the other 50% is shared between the children. Now, I don't know if prior to his death, he is now going to look to change his deed. Because let's say during his lifetime, he goes ahead, he changes the deed, and he added his children as joint tenants with the right of survivorship. So here it is, by operational law, the kids will get everything, you'll get nothing. But if the deed is such that he holds the property by himself and he dies and there's no will, then it gets shared between the spouse and the children, right? So this is this, and we cannot say prior to his death whether or not he will not change the deed. Yeah. And I think as spouses, this is something that I remember I met this very, very nice lady. I think her husband was a police officer with the New York, I think it's New York City. Anyway, the saddest thing happened in that he chose no survivor benefits because people really, nobody's planning for death, you know, which can have devastating consequences. Where this was a woman who she never worked, and her husband was her sole means of support right throughout her life. And no one plans for death, so he did not choose the survivor benefits. And that income when he was alive, concerning the retirement, that just went. Yeah. And she was able to benefit from the social security. But had he chosen that survivorship benefits, it would not have been a struggle like how she suffered upon his demise. And this is where I'm going to encourage you. If it is you have a spouse, yeah, because some people are fortunate enough to really get spouses who, in fact, are invested in the human element of them as opposed to the material things in life, where you come home, you're not feeling well. That's your spouse running around, making you a cup of tea, trying to get the necessary medications so that you are okay. Some of you will have some spouses. You could be dying in that house. You better not, because they will not raise a finger to assist you. And this is where for years, some people live like this, you know, where, and what is most confusing to me is if it is that you're married and you are in fact separated, your spouse is not in fact contributing to your whole economic viability. And what you will find is some people are hanging on because they know if you should pass away, they have, as a spouse, inheritance rights. Yeah. So they'll never divorce you because they're holding on to the possibility of what it is that they can accrue from you. And I've done divorces where people have been separated for years. And I had a client, he was terrified. They were separated for, I think, since the 90s. He's not supporting her. She actually, when she left him, she moved away. She bought a house. She moved to a different state. And she was very independent. But come 2020, here it is that we're filing a divorce, right? So you're talking people who have been separated for 20 odd years. And it was her claim. She wanted part of his retirement. She wanted maintenance. And I wanna wake some of you people up this morning who are entitled. Yeah? If it is that you are separated from your spouse, for you to approach the court that you want maintenance, it does not make sense. You have been self-supporting. Morning, Jackie from Dallas, Georgia. You have been self-supporting. So for you to come now with your suitcase, think that you're going to clear up, it doesn't make any sense. And I remember he was so terrified. He's like, Antoinette, I don't want to proceed. And I said, you've been separated for over 20 years, right? He got the job after she left. After she left, cause then just pack them back, then leave, then not care, them I left you. Yeah, when any woman who I left a man, some woman who understand what me I chat about. You not care, you take your things, you're leaving. Yeah? And some men will come home to an empty house. But then I'll never forget my client's wife said to me, let me tell you something, Antoinette. No woman, yeah, leaves a good man. Anyway, I'm not getting other people in business. So she packed up her things over 20 years. He got the job after contributing to his retirement system. And I said, have a little faith in me. I said, she's getting nothing. You've been separated for over 20 years. You got the job since the separation. Yeah. And you're therefore contributing to your retirement since the separation. I don't care that prior to her departure, you were together for 15 years. During the 15 years, nothing ever happened for you. After the woman left, this is what my brother would say, Lord Jesus, me do with that girl, me sad. Yeah. So she come now and she was like, oh, she's making claims for maintenance. She is making claims for his retirement. And we're in court. And I said to the judges, it's ridiculous because they've not been together. He got the job after they were separated. That's when his contributions were. There's no economic partnership here. I'm sorry. She's been self-supporting. So where's the maintenance claim going? Yeah. And a judge looked at her attorney and he said, I agree with Miss Osborne. Have you spoken to her about this? I will come back a few times. And because my client was a breadwinner, he just had to put some monies towards her legal bill. But it was, this is why I'm encouraging you. You're separated for years. Be careful what you're doing because marriage creates economic rights. And for those of you who are very entitled, yeah, it's not every marriage you're going to be able to reap. Because some of you are looking to reap what you have never sowed in a marriage. Let's get real. You have not contributed, you're separated, but you still want to reap. And when it is that you're married and your spouse during the separated period goes ahead and acquires property, you're now in a divorce thinking you're going to get an interest. Doesn't work like that. Yeah. So Amarilla says maybe he did not want her to get anything or very little because of their relationship. She is a bloodsucker, but a good man will leave a vampire. Yes, lad. Some people are just here, let's get real, for what they can get. And this is where I'm going to encourage you. If you have been separated, yeah, I cannot, and for ladies who this is something I could never understand, how some of you women get conned with this. Some of you are here, you're dating married men, unless you're there, like the thief in the night who comes really to rob and kill. I don't understand how you're expecting to build a future with a married man and you take every excuse in the book why it is that they are not leaving their wives, and you expect to build a foundation with these men. These men are not going to leave their wives for you. Yeah. And even when they do, how you get him is how you shall lose him. Because what you sow, you shall reap. So just be very careful how you live in your life out there. Yeah. Uh, People have been separated for years, yet they will not divorce. So these are the people, I'll tell you, who will be afraid to divorce. Where during the marriage, he has acquired a substantial portion in his retirement. Are people with retirements over 700,000 in their retirement? But I had my client who had this money, he was done. Him not care. Him say, Antoinette, make she go on. And I find oftentimes when the men are so willing to give, it's because, ladies, your replacement is waiting in the background. Yeah, man. Him said, the better house, make she take it. Because his kids were living there. House was valued a lot of money. Make she go on. I said to myself, my God, this man is generous. So as soon as we sign off on the divorce agreement, we're not divorced yet. Him send me a message. Antoinette, I am ready to file a fiance visa. Yeah. So oftentimes when they're so willing to give is because your replacement is in the background. But as I had to tell him, and as I tell some of my male clients, because this only comes from my male clients, your divorce has to be completed, meaning the judge has to sign it. And even when the judge signs it, you're not divorced until the clerk enters it. Yeah. So me have to tell him, so this we have to we have to hold on. You have to wait till the judgment come in. Yes. But when I find throughout my years of practicing, when the men are done and they are ready to move on with their life, they're at a point where the material things don't matter. And I have a client, and this is something I personally endorse. Peace of mind is priceless. You can't buy it. No matter how much money you have, if you are in a marriage, some people are in marriages and they are suffering. They truly understand the concept of what it is to be in a house with someone. And as you reach the door, it's like the weight of the world come on your shoulder. You don't even want to go in. So some people come to a point where in a marriage, they don't care anymore. This is what is required, Antoinette. Make sure take it. I just want peace. You'd be surprised. On the flip side, I find the women are not so generous. Yeah, where the men often they'll just walk away, they don't care. Like, I have suffered for years. There's no getting better with her. Just divvy it up and let me go my way. The women are not so pleasant with you. And oftentimes they will fight you. Why? And this, even as a woman, I can't understand it. Them focus on your new girl because she absolutely don't want this girl to benefit in no shape or form. So it's like they're going to fight you till the death because it also delays you going ahead and marrying this girl. And I had a client, I'll never forget this. I was in Brooklyn family court. And anybody who got to family court, this, you can't find crowd more than family court. I mean, I sit down with my nice, good, clean client. Yeah? And the wife knows. We just see when the wife flip round and come in front of us. And in my head, me said, God, not today. Yeah, man. And right there in a Brooklyn family court, my girl decided she got shout out. Imagine you with my best friend. So you know the whole of Brooklyn family court I look now. Because this is a real scandal. Imagine you left me house to come there with my best friend. And she start now, because that is the intro. So everybody now turn now, because this is excitement. They might wait for the case called this is excitement. So now we now signal to the court officer. Yeah. You have to come over here, sir. Yeah. And the court officer send her to sit down, but the story never, because I saw she come as my client come. And you were with her brother before I was with her. This happen in an island people life when they come to America. No, sir. Yeah. But what was amazing to me was the side woman who was the best friend in the divorce proceeding. Oftentimes when the men are coming for their divorce, the new girlfriend will want to come because she have to ensure what is going on. Because she's now investing in this man where, she want to make sure the divorce will come through so her foundation can start. And we sit down in there and we go through the whole motion, right? Because she had no objection. And this is one of the few side women who were decent enough to ensure that the wife get her due. And she was like, make she get her maintenance, because they're married for over 30 years. Make she get her maintenance and make she get her retirement. He had absolutely no objection. But in marriages, it is an economic partnership. And you have to look at the fact that even if you are a housewife, your homemaking skills are such that it is contribution. So you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're taking care of the kids. That also gives an interest in the property. So when it is that, God forbid, in a divorce proceedings, and there is a divvying up, the property is being divided, especially real estate, it is taken into account whether or not monies were used prior to marriage to make down payments, because the person who paid that gets credit for that in the divorce. Also taken into account is during the marriage, if you had, let's say, monies that you had before the marriage, you used to renovate the property, then if that house gets sold, that separate monies you also get a credit for. So there are certain things that it's not all clear cut. There are certain rules that are followed. So I just don't want to believe that the fact that you got married to someone, you're just automatically entitled to certain property. It does not work like that. Yeah. So I'm going to encourage those of you who you have your real property, look at your deeds. If you are parents looking to put your children on, my recommendation is still retain a life interest so that you have some say over the property, and also for tax purposes. for you to get that enhanced star. This is a star credit for taxes, which is separate from the basic star. It gives a greater portion in terms of a reduction to your payment. All right, so it is now 10:04. I am going to end it so you can continue on with your Sunday. Watch your deeds. I'm gonna encourage you watch your retirement update. If you've gotten a divorce, go ahead, update your retirement plans concerning beneficiaries. If you have also gotten a divorce as well, go and update your will. For those of you who had a will prior to marriage, your marriage revokes your will. So it's as if you do not have a will. New York is such that you can't disinherit a spouse. You may want to disinherit them, but you can't. Yeah. They have what is called the spousal right of election, where they're entitled to 1/3 of your estate. So I just this whole me coming here Sunday mornings is to provide you with information so you can make informed decisions when dealing with your assets, or whether we cover evictions with landlord and tenant. It is to ensure that you can make informed decisions for the betterment of your family. All right, so I want to wish everybody a happy Sunday. I want to ensure stay blessed, be blessed, live good with your partner. You know, it's Sunday. I can't even tell you to take your kids out. They'd probably freeze like popsicles. But spend some quality time, yeah, with your family. And I'll see you next Sunday, God's willing. Okay, take care. Bye.